It doesn't get more A-list than Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher. They're one of the most beautiful couples in Hollywood, on screen and off. There's more than 50 films between them. But beyond the glitz and glamour is what Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher want you to know. They're pouring their hearts into the cause of a lifetime.
What we've found is that most people aren't even aware of what's going on.
They're working to save hundreds of thousands of children in this country and around the world who are sold for sex. And tonight they'll tell you how you can help.
You know, those are the guys that have to stand up and say, no, real men don't buy girls.
In their first primetime exclusive interview together, this is a special Piers Morgan Tonight. Now, this is a unique occasion. I don't think you two have ever been together for a primetime interview, have you?
No, actually, we haven't.
No, we haven't.
So I feel very honoured, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
We're going to come to the reason why you're here, because it certainly won't be the reasons I want to talk to you about at the start, which is obviously deeply intrusive questions about your marriage and so on. But we're obviously here to talk about sex trafficking. There's a great campaign that you've launched. We're going to come to that a little later. But talk to me about how things are going, because what I loved about your relationship, and I don't really know either of you very well, except that when you got, there were still a lot of cynics out there who said, it's never going to last.
Oh, not only that, it was written that it was purely for a publicity stunt. It's a pretty long, extended...
Pretty long.
It is. It's a
pretty long-winded punk episode of Punk. I'll tell you that.
How long have you been together?
8 years.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're having the last laugh at all those who mocked it?
Well, I feel like anyone who is sort of engaging themselves in tabloid press as fact will, you know, you'll always have the last laugh.
So what I like is you're getting sort of older, and you seem to be almost getting younger. So there's a kind of morphing here. The age gap is disintegrating before my very eyes.
By the way, every day we have a side-by-side mirror at home. I look in the mirror, I'm like, what's going on? You're going the other way, I'm going this way. Soon, you know, it's going to be no question.
I think that he was always older in his being. It was just, you know, he had to add a couple of years just to get some whiskers.
Yeah, just whiskers, man.
He's
now I can actually.
Have you started shaving yet? Or
it's far less Keanu Reeves. You know, it's like I'm eliminating the Keanu patchiness of my beard as the years go by.
Well, what is the secret to a happy show business marriage? And I don't mean in the context of it being a showbiz marriage, as you're two people in show business who happen to be married. How have you made it work?
Well, one, I think you have to make your relationship a priority, and that's a difficult balance when you have work and you know, the combination of career and family. I think part of it is, I think we spend very little time apart. That's one of the key things. And
no, I'd also say working on the relationship when the relationship's good. You know, as marriage goes, I think most people sort of set getting married as the goal, as opposed to being married, which is a different thing. Like, it's you know, just working on it when it's good, like not letting it go flat, and then finding things that you can work on together. Like this you know, project that we're working on, Real Men Don't Buy Girls. It's the two of us in the trenches every day, and we'll argue about it, and we're both very alpha individuals, and
equally passionate,
and so, but we'll argue about it. But we know that what the sort of main goal is, what the big goal is to transform the quality of life for people, and
in doing so, it does that for us.
Yeah.
Is he romantic?
I would say so.
Was he some ruggedly, you know?
No, he's very.
Chuck you over his shoulder and
I think he's a little
wheel
bit.
you home
He's a
for
little
dinner.
bit of both. But I'll say the type of romantic is, I have. If you go to our house, I have Post-it notes that are placed in various locations, all with messages of encouragement or love or just thought, and been there. I don't know, 7 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Post-it notes are much cheaper than diamond rings.
But can often carry a lot more weight. What's your favourite Post-it note?
Wow, my favorite. I think, well, they're all my favorite, but my most recent one was just a reminder that I was magical.
You are a little old softy, aren't you?
Yeah.
Huh?
You gotta stop saying that stuff in public, honestly. Like, telling people about that publicly doesn't go
Killed
well
it.
for me.
No, it's...
Let's talk about politics, because the other thing that I think unites you two is, obviously, we know you're united by Twitter. We'll come to that in a moment. But also, I think politically, you're very into issues. You're very into your politics. You know, you take that kind of thing seriously. You both campaigned pretty loudly for Obama. Are you happy with how he's got on?
Yeah, I am. You know, I think he walked into a really, really turbulent situation. And I think he, you know, I think as a young politician, he sort of probably made some statements and took some stands and said, we're going to do this and we're going to do this. And he got people so rallied up behind it. And then met and realized there's a very serious opposition, which is, you know, the other half of the country that has a very different opinion. Negotiation is always about, you know, about giving up on something. You know, at some level you have to say, what am I willing to give up in order to achieve what I want to achieve? And, you know,
looking at the big picture. I mean, look, it's, I think that in certain ways, they weren't going to allow him to win. And so I think I think he came into something turbulent, and I think he's also faced a lot of opposition to, you know, positive changes. That said, he's a human being, and nothing, and no human being is perfect.
And he also stepped into a Sisyphean task. I mean, the economic ball was rolling down the hill, right? And one guy is not going to be able to, you know, stand in front of that ball and move it back uphill. And I would say if you're a supporter or you're not, stop asking the president to do the job, because we need to do the job. Yeah, and by the way, you know, it's one of the reasons why I'm such a big advocate of social media, is because it allows us to participate in a very real way. You can move an issue with your own voice, and you don't have to have millions of followers. You just have to get rally support.
Let's come to your addiction, because you two were the first to be addicted to Twitter. I've become quickly addicted to Twitter. I now get it. You've got 6.5 million followers. Demi, you've got 3.5 million. I'm hovering just over the 500,000, so a lot of work to do. But what is it about Twitter? We had a Twitter show recently, which was fascinating, mainly because you had celebrities who just use it to promote themselves or spread gossip or whatever. You have New York Times reporters reporting from the Middle East, breaking news on their Twitter about atrocities they were witnessing in the field. When you first got into this, did you ever imagine it would become a primary news source in that way?
No, I don't. I mean, I think we, like a lot of the early adopters, were just playing with it and trying to figure out how, you know, what it was and how it worked. I think what was really apparent very quickly is the fact that it put you in a very proactive and a less reactive position as it pertains to how people see you, and you kind of had an opportunity to cut out the middleman.
For me, I think I looked at this platform and I thought to myself, this could be the collective consciousness, right? Like this platform in and of itself, a little shout here and a little shout here, but the key is being able to drive a link into deeper, richer content into a tweet, and then have that tweet be syndicated.
I'm going to play a little clip, actually, from Eva Longoria, who I interviewed last week about you two and Twitter.
Demi Moore and Ashton were, like, you know, the really pioneers of getting everybody on Twitter. And I remember talking to her and I said, oh, I just can't be bothered. Why do you do it? And she'd said, to control what is out there about yourself. And I thought about that and I said, God, that is pretty smart, because then you take the bounty off gossip, or you take the bounty off a picture. And then I use it so much for philanthropy, and every charity that I use social media. And it's just, the outreach is viral.
I mean, the interesting thing about Twitter for me is my wife says if she sees one more tweet from me, she's basically going to divorce me. We've only been married a year, so this is rather disturbing. And you said, in fact, in an article in Harper's Bazaar, the digigital era is affecting romance. What do you two do? Tweet each other over dinner?
There was actually, I've cut back.
No, we actually put a rule.
What are the rules?
The rules, the phone goes down at dinner.
But I actually read an article that there is actually a chemical, I think it's like a dopamine release in your body when you get a response. In the same way as, like, any social engagement that you're promoting a response and you get it, there's actually dopamine release in your body. And they say that when you get a reply to something you put out or a retweet, there is an actual chemical.
Well, there is an ego stroke.
Yeah.
But the bottom line
and
is
I look at all social networks, be it Facebook or Twitter or whatever it is, and there's an ecosystem that exists there, but there's also an ecosystem that exists there. And it's and you can sort of see by the personalities that flash to the top where the ego is really at.
I love the fact
my hand on it.
It's so sort of undemocratic in many ways.
Tell people in Egypt it's not democracy. Tell the people in Libya that it's not democracy, where they're sitting behind a government-run news source, right? That is projecting the same images, the same statement over and over and over again, and finally they get their true, real voice to be heard. I mean, in oppressive societies, this kind of social media, this kind of democratization of media, is crumbling infrastructures that have existed for decades. And so to say that it's not democracy at its truest, I think is wrong. I think that's absolutely wrong.
But isn't it slightly perverse?
It is perverse. You know, there are issues like malaria that, you know, that don't really get ad dollars thrown at it.
Well, we're going to come now,
start to now, or human trafficking that doesn't really get like political push. And you can highlight those issues to a massive community.
I'm going to take a short break because I want to come back now with the reason you're here, which is actually entirely linked to Twitter in many ways and social networking, which is human trafficking and how we can all collectively deal with this growing menace.
Piers Morgan Tonight is sponsored by AT&T. Rethink Possible.